In this video, we're going to see how we can connect to external files. Now, in the previous videos, we have worked with connecting to creating pivot tables from regular Excel tables, and then creating queries using tables in a workbook. So now I want to create a query from an external file. So here, let's connect to a CSV file here. So to do that, we can come here, click the CSV file as we did, and then go to your system wherever that CSV file is saved, and then you click on import. Then the Power Query editor is going to open up. You can see here we have the Power Query editor. Now, if you had an Excel file, you probably an Excel workbook, you probably see the navigator window where you'll be able to create, select the tables that you need. So if we look here, we see that a couple of transformations have already happened here. After connecting to the source, this is how the data came in, and then Power Query editor looked at it and saw that, okay, this is supposed to be the headers, and so it intuitively carried out a step for us, which is the use first row as header or promoted headers, and that is done by clicking here. So if you were here and you had not done this, click the first row as header, it will apply this step that we see here. So it applied that step, our first row, our headers, and then it went further to apply another step by changing the type. If you look at every single column, you look up here where you see the data type, you can change data type here. But every single column came in as text. So Power BI, Power Query looked at it, and then it was able to change the type for us. So for example, this that was a text, it's supposed to be a date. These are the data types that you have here: the dates, text, binary, true or false, and then numbers. So it changed this to date for us. So if you come to the change tab, you see that data type of some of these have changed. This is now a date. This is now numbers. This is numbers. This is numbers. This is also numbers. This is text, and so on and so forth. So just like we did before, you can change the name of this query if you want to. You can decide to remove or keep some rows. You can decide to remove or keep some columns. You can decide to split this column if you want to by a delimiter. Let's say we want to just keep the town. You know, here we have, okay, we look here, we have the cities. Okay, there's nothing for the town here, but you see here we have the city, the state. I believe Texas is the state, and then the town. So, but we don't have just the city standing on Austin and the rest. We just have them city, state, country all together. So in case you wanted to just look at only the cities alone, for some reason, we can do a split here. Let's say we split by delimiter. So let's say at each occurrence of delimiter, if you do that, say that it was going to split that column. Look at it, CD1, CD2, CD3. So it split it into 3, but I don't want to do that right now. So I'll just get rid of that. Not really interested in that now. So, but let us, if you look through our data, you see that everything looks okay. But whatever transformation you did, you will do here now is going to be saved in this apply step. So if you happen to refresh this data from your pivot table, and then new data has been added to the source data being wherever it's located in your system. Let's say new information is added to it. You are going to, when you refresh that data, it's going to reflect that new information. So for example, let me go ahead and create a pivot table with this. So let's just do a close and load to. I only want to keep a connection. I don't want a table. Add this to the data model and close and load to. Then it's going to load those rows to this query, and then we'll be able to use it to create our pivot table. So create pivot table, come to the insert pivot table. By default, it will select that you use the workbook data model. Click OK, and we have our table here. Let's look at the revenue per. I don't want to look at cities. Let's look at states. Okay, we only have 2 states here. Let's look at it by something else. Let's look at categories. Okay, Let's look at categories, carry those states. Okay, I think I prefer this category. So we see we have it makes the rural, the urban, and this here. We have all of this here. So let us go ahead now, and I want to add some more data to this. So if we try to add let me put the country as a filter. See that we have only the USA here. This is the only country we have here, the USA. So now I'm going to go ahead and connect to another data source. Now this data set that we have, first of all, is for transactions for a store in the US. So now, but this store has other outlets in other countries. So now, but you are the one, the data analyst compiling these reports, the store, all the information does not come to you at once. You are in the US office, and then the other stores have to send their own files to a separate folder, and then you need to now create one consolidated report, comparing everything between these multiple stores. Now, how do you go about that? That means you have to merge this table or together, join them somehow in a way that you have just one big table with every information in it, so that you'll be able to do your comparisons and create your reports seamlessly. So let's go ahead and connect to a folder. So let's say this file has been sent to us here, and we have it here. These are files that were sent to us for the other stores that we have. This is Canada, this is France, this is Germany, this is Mexico. So for those 4 stores that were sent to us, we now want to be able to add these are data sets that we have, add the ones that we're collecting from those other countries, and then just get one large table so that we'll be able to do our analysis from that single table. So to do that, we are going to have to come back to our query here. Let's do a new query, and this time, since we have all of them in a folder, let's just connect to that folder. So you click on browse, you go to the path where that folder is in your system. Mine is here, training materials, national sales. And I OK that. Click on OK. It's going to load that query for me. Now look at the 4 tables I have here. These are the tables information, the extensions and all that. But now, see that it looks a little bit different from my regular table that just came in and everything is processed. But this is a folder. So it's showing me the information, everything about the files in that folder. So to see the content, you can see this first column here where you have content and you have the drill down attribute showing there. We want to look at the column that we have in the content, so we have to go into the content. So if you do the drill down, click there, takes you into the content for all these tables. Now look at what he has done for us. He did a couple of things here. He came to the source, it combined all these tables for us, imported it here. We have a couple of countries here, not just Canada here. Promoted headers for us, and then it changed type. So all these files that we have here, they were of the same structure. If you go and open them, you see that they are of the same structure. They contain the same number of columns, the same column names. Nothing is really different there. So it's easy for it to combine product ID, dates, name, date, zip, units, revenue, and country. If you look at the other one, we have product ID, dates, zip, units, revenue, and country information. So the same way, they all look the same. So if we come here, we see that this has done a few things for us. It has connected all this information for us to here. It has added all the tables that we have here together. And if we click on load more, we see that it's going to show us, look at the countries that we have here. So in this particular table, we have every single country that is from those 4 files: Canada, Mexico, Germany, and France. So for us to use this with this other table, we need to find a way to use this table, connect it to this table, and then use it as one. For the sake of this example, I just want to connect these tables together. So let me just show you how that's done. I will come here, come on, choose columns, and I'll just keep only the columns that have what I need. So I'll deselect all. I want product ID, date, zip, units, revenues, and countries. And so when I do that here, you can see that I've removed some columns from here, and my international sales, the same thing. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, and does that correspond? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are in the same places. So now I can go ahead and what I want to do now, I want to add this query to this query that we have here. So to do that, I come here to the Append Queries. I click on that, and I want to append. I am currently on this table. I want to append this query to that. Appending means this other query, wherever this query ends, this one will just begin from there. So we are going to have this query up to wherever it is the end of it. Let's assume this is the end here. So if this is the end, 251, then from row 252, we're going to have this first one starting there. So that's how you append. That's Append Queries. So, okay, no, I don't want to do a merge. I want to do an append. So you do an Append Query. We're on this current query, that is the US sales. So we can append the international sales. This is this query 1. I'm not going to name it international sales because I'm going to append it to the main query. So query 1, and I click on OK and see what I have here. Look here, you see an appended query feature. So if you come to this here and you check this, you see that we have not just USA like we did before. We have for France, we have for Germany, Mexico, and other countries on this one query here. So if I go to the close and load to, and then I use the close and load to here, and I only create a connection, and then I click load. See that we're going to have this our table here that has all our transactions. You will see that it has everything that we need, both international sales and all the other sales for all the other information for other countries. So this won't be valid anymore because I think this is a category. We have gotten rid of that category field. So it's loading our data and combining every transformation. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that if another country information is added, for example, another country is added to our file. Now, whatever that country's information is, you're going to see that we are going to have that country's, let's say a 5th country is added to our folder where our international sale was kept. When we load this data, we're going to have that country's information as part of the query, and that combination that combined the 4 international sales is going to combine this every query, including the one that we have for that particular country. So if we see this here, remember our countries were our filters. Let's look at let's come to the countries now. See that now we have, instead of having just countries for there are some errors there, but we're not going to pay attention to the errors right now. The countries we have here, you see that we have Canada, okay, France, Germany, and a couple of others. But then we're seeing there's a little issue here. I'm seeing country here, and I'm not supposed to see that. So let me go back into my query and let me see what happens there. So go to show queries, and let's come here and click on edit. So I clicked on the errors. So let me see what exactly were the errors that came up in query 1. So we're seeing this here, row number, and then now this row number, these are the headers for those particular countries. So at this row, maybe this was the row header for country, let's say Mexico, the row header for another country, and the row header for another country. There were 4 countries there. So let's come here and fix that. I will look in here, any of my rows that have, now I'm filtering this. I don't want to see any row that has country, is going to get rid of it. So that country, it probably stands for this header that we have here. When Canada is done, the next country, you see that the product ID still the same header showing as a record, and we don't want that. So let me delete this query here. This is our error query here. Then we have this here. This is going to be okay now, I believe. Let's load it and make sure that everything is fine. Okay. Then let's close on loads and let's check our error again, query again. I'll see if there's going to be any errors. So now if we look here, you see that everything loaded and then we didn't have any errors just because of that country issue that we had errors here. So if we look here now, we see that we don't have any of our countries named country because we have taken care of that from that error. So sometimes you might work out and do your transformation and forget to do some things, and that will be an issue. So talking about the applied steps being always the same, let me go ahead and add one more file to that international folder, and then we're going to refresh our data and you're going to see what's happening. So we have 5 countries here. Let me add information for another country, and I'll maybe call that country China. So let's do that. So now let's go ahead and connect to that file. We look here. I've gone ahead to add one more file here. Before we had just this 1, 2, 3, and this 4th one. I've added China to the sales, for the international sales. So let's go ahead and now connect to that same folder. Now remember, we have done our transformation on this already that we have here. So if you go to our query, let me just show you the query so that you see what will happen when I do it. Let's go into the query. Right here. Into it. Edit. Takes you to the query editor. Then if you look here, you see all these steps that we have applied on this particular query. You know, this query is the one that goes to the folder. This query is the one that applies that after we do all this application on this query, then we now merge it, append it to this query, and we create our pivot table from here. So if I go ahead now let me just close this. If I go ahead now and refresh this pivot table, just watch and see what is going to happen. Come to the Analyze tab and click on Refresh. Let's just see what's going to happen. Remember, we have just these tables here. So let's see what's going to happen. So you see here that China has been added to our row labels, which is our country list. If we go to our query editor, go there and see a couple of things. Okay, we have a few errors somewhere. Let's come deal with that. Okay, so I took a moment to check what the error was coming from, and then I realized that in our file here, each of these other files that I had here, their dates column was of the data type dates, that is this column. So just of the data type dates, but for the one for China, I had it showing as date time. So the one for China. So when I'm trying to append, when it's combining all these queries together, the queries that have dates for China, all those columns are going to be showing error because I try to combine a column with the data type date and then a data type date time together. But to correct the error, I just need to come here and then change the source file. I created this file, so I'm just going to change the source files information to make sure that that particular column is a date and not showing as date time. So I've gone ahead to correct that. So in our date column now, we now have just the dates instead of date and time. So if I close that, then come back to our query here and let us go and refresh this. We see that we don't have those errors again. I believe so. So we'll click on refresh and our queries are going to load all over again. You can see here everything loaded and we didn't have any errors. So if we close this and we look here, everything is still fine. We have no issues. If we look at our queries, we have no errors. Let me show the queries again. We have no errors, unlike before that we had errors for all the countries in all the dates in China. But now we have no errors. We fixed it. Right, so with that, we have come to the end of this Excel series. Now we've got to look at all the things from connecting to your data, bringing it, doing any transformation you have to do, creating your data model, creating pivot tables and charts, and creating a dashboard. In the next video in this series, we're going to work on an end-to-end project. So look out for that, starting from, bringing the data in down to, building your dashboard. There will also be, in future, we're going to work on another tutorial series on Power BI that will cover everything you need to know to get proficient in the use of Power BI. So also be on the lookout for that. So please, if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, subscribe to the channel, and that will encourage us to keep bringing out more educational content like this. All files that were used throughout the series will be made available in the description, so check that out, and see you in the next video.